How did those towers come down? Well, before we were told what to think by the experts, let's listen to what some eyewitnesses said.
Actually, devices that were planted in the building. There was another explosion that took...
Huge explosion that we all heard. An explosion,
And another explosion.
All that evidence of explosions was quickly ignored or dismissed. The next morning, the experts had already figured out how those towers fell. In just under an hour, a raging fire from burning aviation gasoline softened or perhaps melted the steel. And we were told that melted steel story for months. The intense fire caused the tower to collapse. It melted the structural steel. What the firemen might not have realized is the gushing jet fuel was melting the steel. Steel melts, and 24,000 gallons of aviation fluid melted the steel.
As the steel began to soften and melt, the interior core columns began to give.
Indeed, there was plenty of evidence of melted steel, including this, and this, molten spheres of iron, steel like Swiss cheese, and of course this. But over time, this melted steel story changed. Even today, the media report and many scientists believe that the steel melted. This is not true. And NIST said that the molten steel was irrelevant to the investigation of the collapse, since it does not provide conclusive information on the condition of the steel when the towers were standing. John Gross of NIST, who was at the yard observing plenty of evidence, denied its very existence.
First of all, let's go back to your basic premise that there was a pool of molten steel. I know of absolutely nobody, no eyewitness who said so.
Except these firemen.
You'd get down below and you'd see molten steel running down the channel rails.
And this eyewitness.
The fires got very intense down there and it actually melted beams where it was molten steel that was being dug out.
And this architect.
It's this fused element of steel, molten steel and concrete and all of these things all fused by the heat into one single element.
Molten iron and explosions is easily explained by incendiaries and explosives, but not by fires. So that evidence had to be ignored and denied. If their melted steel story wouldn't work, then how did they explain how those towers came down? Professor Bazant and others published several scientific papers with rigorous equations proving how the upper top block of floors crushed the lower, larger section down to the ground, and then the upper block crushed itself back up. It neglected to explain how the upper block fell through the inner core columns, or why those core columns fell last. In addition, the theory ignores Newton's third law. But other experts disagreed, and instead we were told that it was a pancake collapse, which contradicted the